Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Cake Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with that spiritual side of our existence. You're familiar with the physical and the mental and the emotional, but we have been discussing the spiritual, whatever that is. My name is Clint Houghton. With me is Wendy Dahl. Wendy?
Hi, Clint.
Hello, Wendy. If you're joining us for the first time, you should know that neither Wendy nor I run any kind of a religious organization, nor has our formal education been along those lines. We were both raised relatively conservative Christian. Wendy is Mormon. I was raised Lutheran, but have since explored a lot of different theologies and philosophies. Plus, we are both in the wedding industry with an international clientele, and that has exposed us to a lot of different rituals and customs and traditions, and we bring all of that into this conversation. And that's exactly what it is. It's a conversation. We just want to figure out stuff. So if you want to join the conversation at the end of this episode, we will tell you how to do that. Wendy, remember in the last episode when we talked about saints? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Whenever I think of saints, I think of Catholicism. And then at the end of our last episode, we said maybe it would be fun to see what all those saints are within the Catholic traditions. And guess what I did?
You asked our friend.
Yep. The third member of our podcast, which is ChatGPT. So let me show you what I'm talking about. What I wanted specifically to know is the patron saints. Now, I don't know why I latched onto the word patron, but anytime that I hear Catholics talk about saints, it seems like they add the word patron to it. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I am of the understanding that saints have a particular role within the Catholic traditions. Have you heard of that? Does that make sense?
To be honest, I haven't really gone deep on what the saints are. I know like we're gonna get into the list and what their domain is. I kind of correlated it in my mind to like the Greek gods, where it was like there's
Oh,
a specific Greek god for war, and there's a specific one like Zeus, that's the main one. So I just kind of figured maybe saints were like that.
okay, I understand the correlation, and there's a part of that that makes sense. The difference, though, in the Greek mythology, which I fell in love with, Greek and Roman mythology when I was in grade school, and I still in my
Mhm.
garage, I've got these amazing books, Time Life books. You remember those Time Life books? You would
Yes.
subscribe to them, and then
Yes.
every month or so, you would get a new edition. Well, I've got two sets in my garage. I don't want to get any deeper into that, but I love all that mythology. And
Yes.
the way I looked at the gods is that they kind of influenced or controlled different aspects of human life.
Correct.
Whereas the saints, well, actually, let's get into it. So, here,
Yes.
first of all, you can see it right in front of you. Catholics do not worship saints. Worship is reserved for God alone, but instead, they ask the saints to pray or intercede for them, much as they might ask a friend or a
How
family member to pray
cool.
for them. Yeah, I know. I was trying to think of some business correlation, something along the lines of, well, I know a guy that does this particular thing, and if you know him, can you introduce me? Maybe it's something along that. I don't know. Many Catholics choose a patron saint at baptism or confirmation. They pray to his patron saint during times of need. They select a patron saint for a church, school, city, or organization. We've seen that a million times, all these different things that are named saint this and saint that. Celebrate a saint's feast day each year. Well, obviously, it's a party, and I asked about that as well. So they gave me a list, but then when they said the feast day, I
Wow.
said, give me the list again. The thing that's interesting is a saint typically becomes the patron of something because their occupation, St. Joseph.
Married to
Is that a
Mary.
good
I was
way?
going to say Mary's husband.
Mary's husband. There you go. St. Joseph was Mary's husband, and he was a carpenter. So he became the patron saint of workers and carpenters. Does that make sense? Life events. St. Anthony became associated with finding lost things after stories of recovering lost books and possessions. Miracles, healings, or extraordinary events linked to the saint led people to seek their intercession. That makes sense. If they're doing it already, then martyrdom, the manner of a saint's death, sometimes determined their patronage, and popular devotion, in many cases, centuries of Christian tradition naturally connected a saint with a particular cause. Can a person have more than one patron saint? Yes. Many Catholics have a baptismal patron, a confirmation patron, a patron related to their profession or hobbies, a patron for special needs or specific needs such as travel, illness, and family life. So let's get into it. I wanted to know the name of the saint, what's the patron of. Can you look up real quick and define patron?
Patron is a supporter or benefactor.
Well, that was pretty straightforward. Saint Peter, the patron of popes, fishermen, and locksmith. And I think because I was told that Saint Peter was the first pope of the church. Did you ever hear that?
No, I don't know anything about like the Pope lineage and
Neither do I. I was just told that he was the first one. Let's just run with that.
okay.
So his feast day is June 29th. St. Paul missionaries, evangelists, and theologians. Paul is the one who wrote most of the epistles. After the Gospels, the rest of the New Testament. I think John wrote something in there, books of John, obviously. That's interesting that St. Paul and St. Peter both have the same feast day. So that must be a real party. St. Joseph is the patron saint of fathers, families, workers, carpenters, the universal church. Oh, I want to make sure that we understand the universal church is just kind of like believe in God around the world is the way I interpret that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then that's March 19th. Also, May 1st is St. Joseph the Worker. Oh, I see. Because he was the husband of Mary. And so now we attach him with families and that kind of stuff. Plus, he was a carpenter. And think, you know what? We'll get into this a little bit down the list. St. Mary Magdalene, converts, penitents, and women, July 22nd. St. Anthony of Padua, lost items, travelers, and the poor, June 13th. St. Francis of Assisi. I don't know why, but I really have a connection with St. Francis of Assisi. Animals, nature, ecology, peace. I think because my understanding of St. Francis of Assisi is that he was very much focused on love. God is love and love of nature and humanity and that sort of thing. October 4th, something to look forward to. St. Clare of Assisi, television, eye disease, and embroiders. What?
Eye disease?
Yeah, a television. One would argue that one leads to the other. Eye disease and embroiderers. Okay, so wait a minute. One time I was working in Las Vegas, and in order to get from my hotel room to the convention center, I had to walk past these big ballrooms of the hotel, and they were having a convention of quilters. It makes me wonder if the quilters also have a patron saint, and would it be the same one? St. Patrick, Ireland, engineers, missionaries, March 17th. St. Nicholas, children, sailors, merchants, December 6th. St. Christopher, travelers and motorists. That's very common. In fact, it'll say later that a lot of Catholics will always wear a St. Christopher medallion. And I remember growing up with Catholics, and they all had St. Christopher's if they travel a lot. So July 25th is the feast day for St. Christopher, traditionally, but not on the Universal Roman calendar. St. Jude, hopeless causes, desperate situations, October 28th. St. Lucy, blindness and eye disorders, December 13th. St. Agatha, breast cancer patients and nurses, February 5th. Some of these, when I read them off, you can kind of figure out the name and then how they possibly could be considered the patron of whatever that is. So I'm guessing that if St. Agatha, breast cancer patients, it's possible that she had breast cancer or something along those lines. St. Cecilia, musicians and singers, November 22nd. St. Valentine, love, engaged couples, beekeepers. Beekeepers! What?
No way.
Does that mean that beekeepers are filled with love? Let's go with that. They love their bees. And that's February 14th, obviously Valentine's Day. St. Monica, mothers, wives, difficult marriages. Ooh, August 27th. St. Augustine of Hippo, theologians, brewers, and printers. Some of these are so non sequiturs. You know what I mean? Theologians and brewers. I think brewers make beer, right? Would that be a good interpretation?
I would guess so, yes.
And printers. I don't want to get into the weeds on this kind of thing, but I am really curious as to what's the deal. St. Thomas of Aquinas, students, teachers, universities, January 28th. St. Thomas More, M-O-R-E, lawyers, politicians, civil servants, June 22nd. St. Luke, physicians, surgeons, and artists. I heard that Luke was a doctor or a physician. That's Luke the apostle, October 18th. St. Cosmas, C-O-S-M-A-S, doctors and pharmacists, September 26th. St. Damien, doctors and pharmacists, September 26th. So they share that same day and they share the same patronage. St. Joan of Arc, oh, bing, bang, boom. France, soldiers and military personnel, May 30th. St. George, oh, isn't that the guy that fought the dragon? Do you ever heard that story that there was a St. George that fought a dragon?
No, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. Anyway, soldiers, scouts in England. Oh, so St. George is the patron saint of England, whereas Joan of Arc is the patron saint of France. So there you go. St. Catherine of Siena for nurses, Europe, and fire prevention. So we have a patron saint of France, patron saint of England, and a patron saint of Europe, which kind of covers the whole thing. Oh, wait, but it gets better. St. Teresa of Avila, writers, Spain, people seeking deeper prayer. Oh, that feels good. October 15th. St. Therese of Lisieux.
Lisieux.
Lisieux?
Mm-hmm, Lisieux.
Really? Did you take French in school?
Oh, yes.
Like all the way through high school?
Actually, I went to a private school for elementary school because my mom taught there and they taught us French there. So I feel like my foundation came from grade school and then again in high school. But if you put me in France and they start talking, I'm like, I get four shots. Like that's the fork,
Slow down,
you
slow
know,
down,
but
slow
like
down.
I don't get everything.
Yeah, but still, that's cool. We have
Hmm.
a couple of schools nearby that are what they call immersion schools.
Hmm.
There is one that's French and there's one that's
Fun.
Spanish. It makes me think that maybe there's a couple other languages around as well. How great. Because at that age, when you're such a sponge and it's in your brain for the rest of your life, that's pretty. Do you feel that way about French?
Yes, but it's not in the way, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so it'll come at random times where I'll be listening to something or like I just did where I read it and I'm like, oh, it's Lisieux. It's not like I think in French, but I remember when I was a child, I remember doing a little thinking in French.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that when you're learning another language, you know that you've really got it if you start dreaming in that language.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So that's Saint Therese of Lisieux, Missionaries, Florists, Aviation, October 1st. Saint Dymphna, 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 Mental Illness, Anxiety, Depression, May 15th. Saint Peregrine Lassiosi, Cancer Patients, May 4th. And Saint Isidore of Seville, the Internet, Computers, and Computer Users, which is fascinating. And her day is April 4th. All right, some interesting facts. Most popular patron for lost items, St. Anthony of Padua. A common prayer begins, Dear St. Anthony, please come around. Something is lost and cannot be found.
Cute.
It is so cute.
I need to embroider that in my house so that when people come and ask me, where is this? I
Well,
can
if you
point
start
to
embroidering, then you want to talk to the patron saint of
exactly.
embroidery. There we go. Who is that? Oh, there
Saint
it is.
Clair of
St. Clare of
Assisi.
Assisi.
It's easy.
Yeah, before you hit the pillow. Very good.
Yeah.
Most popular travel saint, St. Christopher, patron saint of the internet. So this is interesting to me. St. Isidore of Seville was named because, Isidore is a male name. Well, my
Hmm.
apologies. St. Isidore of Seville was named because he compiled one of history's first encyclopedic works, making him a fitting patron for the digital age.
Cool.
Patron of hopeless causes, St. Jude, one of the most frequently prayed to saints during crises. Patron of animals, on October 4th, the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. Many Catholic churches hold a blessing of the animals where people bring pets to be blessed.
How sweet.
I don't want to be sacrilegious, but I would love to be the person that was blessing animals. That would be awesome. You know what? I should learn how to do that. I don't think it's probably not complicated. And again, don't want to be sacrilegious. If you have to
No.
have a certain status within a religious organization in order for the blessing to be taken seriously. But I have throughout the course of my life, very quietly inside, I've blessed people. And I don't make a thing out of it, but it's something that just happens organically through me. When I do wedding ceremonies, when they put the rings on, I'll just very quietly put my hand over the two of them, their hands, and I'll just say amen, amen. For me, that's a blessing. You know what I mean? So I would love to bless animals. That would be so much fun. Two feast days. Saint Joseph, this is the husband of Mary, has two major feast days, March 19th and May 1st. One is because he's married to Mary, and the other one is because he's a carpenter to honor the dignity of labor. Isn't that cool? And I think, yeah. And there you go. What do you think of all that?
I love it. And it's interesting. And this is kind of a funny correlation. I was watching the last Jurassic World and I was looking at Scarlett Johansson wore like an emblem necklace the whole time. What is on the emblem? So, of course, after the movie, I went and I looked and it turned out to be an emblem of Saint Christopher. And it was like a medallion necklace. And I was like, rabbit holing, like, who is Saint Christopher? What does he do? And I thought, well, isn't that interesting that they put an emblem of Saint Christopher about traveler in a movie
Kind
to
of
where the
dangerous.
yes. But I just thought it was interesting that it was even in Hollywood because that kind of stuff, you like symbols like that, unless it's a film about like how angels and demons, where there's symbols that are like, the
Oh,
Dan
right.
Brown series, where their symbols are like part of the story. And maybe I just don't notice, but I mean, she wore it in every scene, in every outfit, and I was just like, what is on her necklace? I had an interesting conversation with a friend in the car the other night when he was talking about he wants to join a church and he doesn't know which church to choose. And when you and I talk a lot about, you could be in a faith, a certain religion, but everybody has their own take on it. And I
Right.
was making the comparison of myself to my ex-husband, like there's no compatibility there. Our interpretations and the way we live using the same religion, which is unique. But I was talking about not so much saints, but just like how people are put in your life to help you. And then to learn today that people actually pray to the saints to like, not praying to the saints, they're praying to God, but they're like asking the saint to pray on their behalf.
Right.
And to me, that's like when people ask, like somebody asked me to pray for them once, and I was just choking back tears. And it was, they didn't know how to pray. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like what a kind thing to ask me to do. And
Well, I don't
so,
know. It sounded like desperation. I mean, if the person that was asking you was crying and having an emotional, that kind of an
no, they
intense
weren't.
emotional
They were just
experience.
having a challenge. I was the one that was choking back tears because
Oh,
yeah, no, it was me thinking, am I worthy to pray on your behalf?
oh, that's
Am I good
interesting.
enough?
Someone told me one time that tears are the way your body shows you things that need to be processed. They said it even better, that tears are something coming up to be healed. And that's the way your body and mind deal with it, is you have to release it. And the main form of release in that situation would be tears or crying. But it's a good sign because it's something inside you that is coming up to be healed. What do you think of that?
I think my question, just following it in my head, was, am I good enough to pray for you? People who have saints in their lives and use the saints as somebody who would pray on their behalf would be able to deal with that question better. But for me, I just look at it like, well, who am I to pray for
Oh,
somebody else?
Wendy. Oh, Wendy,
Right?
Wendy, Wendy.
And so,
Wait.
but I'm not saying that I don't have like self-value, but I feel like, but that question is relevant. Like, am I good enough like to help this person? Like, is there someone better? Like, could you go to, a church leader or somebody? But how sweet it was that they asked me.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, obviously they have high opinions of you, and just that alone should, in my opinion, give you
You
all
know?
the acknowledgement that you need.
Hmm.
But if you kind of broaden the spectrum, because we've said it many, many times that human beings try to figure out religion through the scope of human beings. And God is so much more than that. We can't even wrap our mind around what infinite is in regard
Oh,
to the scope of God as an entity and all the different facets of God. But if God created all of us, loves all of us, then no matter what our behavior is, or however we're self critical, it seems to me that any human being reaching out on behalf of another human being is, from a certain standpoint, godlike, because it's filled with, I want to do something for you. And even though I may not feel that I'm authorized or capable or accomplished or whatever adjectives you want to put on that, just the idea that one human being is reaching out on behalf of another human being from a spiritual standpoint, because we have to put prayer into that category, I don't see how God can have a problem with any of that. If you're doing prayer in the role of an intermediary, then it just makes sense that by definition, you're more than qualified. And I mean, I already know you, and I know that you're, of course, just any human being who honestly, from their heart, reaches out on behalf of somebody else to a higher power. That is so self explanatory. I just think it's brilliant and wonderful. And
right.
one of the things that gives us hope in humanity, if you want to
Well, and
know
they
that.
even talk about like group prayers where it's like there's strength in numbers. And it reminds me probably 10 years ago, I remember scrolling through Facebook and she was a photographer at the time and she was pregnant and she posted a picture. She was in the center, but she was surrounded by women who were all praying for her and they were all connected like by hand. So like the people closest to her had their hands on her, but then everyone behind it was like a chain, kind of like what they show in Avatar movie when they're all praying and they're connected.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, wow, that must have been a powerful room to be in.
Oh, yeah. Especially there's a different type of power with women. I really do believe that. I'm not denigrating men. There's a power for them as well. But there's something about women when they connect, because I think that's what women are designed to do, to be communal and to be supportive and that sort of thing. And also, I think that it's okay to assign positive and negative to certain conditions. And in my particular way of thinking, a group of people coming together, they connect into the human mob mentality. Anytime you walk into a place of worship, just by definition, there's a bunch of people that are all trying to worship a higher power. And there's something about humanity when it comes to numbers that has a strength. It's almost like 1+1 = 3 type of a deal. The idea that these women are all around the pregnant woman and there's just an intensity that I think enhances the intention of the prayer, and I support it 100%. So we're designed that way. Now it can go south we've seen a lot of different things where mob mentality can become violent and cruddy, but that same aspect of humanity can also be very powerful in a positive way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And I can't help but there are times where I just want to reach out and touch somebody's shoulder. And I just feel like that physical connection. And then there's this thing that happens. And if we have a group hug, there's a thing, and there's a, and I think it's all connected to the same essence of human beings. And we should work with the tools that we got.
Absolutely.
Wendy, tell everybody how they get in touch with us.
You can find us on spiritualcake.com, where you can go and click one of the 3 social media icons, which are Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and join us there. Or you can listen to or read any of our previous episodes, or you can send us an email requesting a topic or even to join the conversation.
Absolutely. And when you do join the conversation, please know we welcome you with open arms. That's it for this episode of the Spiritual Cake Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of Wendy, we will see you next time.